so you can follow us there as well. Welcome to the African History Network show. It is Sunday, March 6th, 2022, and we are live. Hope everybody's doing well today. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. All right, so last Sunday on our show, we talked about African students, numerous African students in Ukraine, attending medical school, college students, things like this, engineering, making claims that they were being mistreated when it came to trying to get out of Ukraine. Now, we know that Russia invaded Ukraine on Thursday, February 24th. We know today is day 11 of the Russian invasion. So far, 1.5 million people have fled Russia. Fled Ukraine. About half of them going into Poland. Okay, so if you've been watching our show, you know we've been covering this daily here on the African History Network show. And incidentally, I was covering this even before dealing with African students in Ukraine. I was talking about that even before a lot of mainstream cable news networks started talking about it. And even before the first article I saw from NBC News dealing with this was March 1st, 2022. I started talking about this February 27th. Okay, so we're going to give you an update dealing with what's going on with the African students. More of them have made it out, but still allegations of discrimination. We know the United Nations has come out and admits refugees have faced racism at Ukraine borders. But also, we got the news today that WNBA star Brittney Griner has been detained apparently for weeks in Russia, and this deals with. She's being charged with possession of drugs. Brittany Griner Star Center is detained in Russia. New York Times has a big article on this, and it's people are fearing, especially those national security experts, things like this. People have knowledge of international politics, etc. People are fearing that she may be used in a pawn between Russia and the U.S. New York Times has a big article on this. Brittney Griner, star WNBA Center, is detained in Russia. Russian customs officials said a U.S. basketball player had vape cartridges containing hashish oil in her luggage. A Russian news agency identified the player as Brittney Griner. Okay. And she plays in Russia. She plays for the Phoenix Mercury for the WNBA, but she also plays for international team in Russia as well. So we'll talk a little bit about this, give you an update on what's going on. First story I saw about this was from I think it was the New York Post. We posted it on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network. We posted an article there, but New York Times has an extensive article dealing with this as well. So I was looking at this article here from New York Times, and then I saw one from businessinsider.com. And the one from, so when I first saw the story dealing with Brittney Griner, the first thing that came to mind, and I found out she was playing for a league in Russia. Okay. And the first thing that came to mind is, wait a second, why would a two-time Olympic gold medalist and why would a WNBA superstar like Brittney Griner, why would she be playing for a team in Russia? I said, it must be because she does not make nearly as much money as NBA superstars, as male superstars make. Okay. So that was the first thing that came to mind when I saw that story. So then there was a article from businessinsider.com. Okay. I saw an article from businessinsider.com that echoed what I was immediately thinking. So this piece is called "How Low WNBA Salaries Led to an American Basketball Superstar's Detainment in Russia." All right, this is an article from BusinessInsider.com. We'll talk a little bit about this as well. How low WNBA salaries led to an American basketball superstar's detainment. This is from March 5th, 2022. Okay. And one of the things it says here is American basketball star Brittney Griner has been detained in Russia and faces drug smuggling charges. The Olympic gold medalist spends her WNBA off seasons competing for Russian club UMMC Ekaterinburg. Brittney Griner and other women's basketball stars command much higher salaries overseas than in the U.S. Brittney Griner and other women's basketball stars, WNBA stars, get paid more money playing overseas than playing in the U.S. Okay, so we'll discuss that a little bit as well. But when I first heard the story, I said that's the first thing I thought, because there's been a lot of conversation and controversy over, even though we know that with the NBA, the viewership is much higher. But it's like, wait a second, why are these women making such little money playing in the WNBA? So we'll talk about that. Then there's been an outpouring of support for African students who are trying to flee Ukraine. Okay. There's a story from face-to-faceafrica.com that we posted on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network. It deals with Black women raised $60,000 to help Black students flee Ukraine after report of mistreatment. Okay, so you have that story. We know some of the African students have been able to make it to safety. Some of them are going to Hungary and Romania. All right, some are going to Hungary and Romania. And then there was a story that I saw from March 4th, where a group of Black attorneys filed a United Nations complaint for African refugees. A group of African attorneys filed a United Nations complaint for African refugees. Okay, so, and of course, in that group is Benjamin Crump, who is all over the place doing a lot of good work. And he's doing more work than the people that criticize him, I'll tell you that. The group of lawyers so NBC News has a story on this. The group of lawyers, which includes Ben Crump, will send the complaint to two agencies with the United Nations. So we'll discuss that as well. Now, this past week, President Joe Biden gave his State of the Union address. And the first 15 minutes or so dealt with Ukraine. And then after that, he dealt with a lot of domestic issues. We'll do a brief, so we talked about this earlier in the week on our show. So we'll do a brief recap of what he discussed. But there was a portion of it where he said, we don't want to fund the police. We don't want to defund the police. We want to fund the police. We don't want to defund the police. We want to fund the police. Now, this got overwhelming support in the chamber by Democrats and Republicans, but a lot of activists are attacking what he said. But what we're gonna do is deconstruct what President Joe Biden said, because the George Floyd, we're coming up on a break just a second, I hear it. The George Floyd Justice and Policing Act does not defund the police, it actually funds the police. And very few people are talking about this. We're going to go through and deconstruct this step by step and break this down right here today on the African History Network show. All right, 9:10 a.m. Superstation Future Radio. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by. Bathroom break in 4 minutes. All right, stand by, everybody. Share this broadcasting on social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in. Stand by. Bathroom break in 4 minutes. Okay, how's everybody doing today? Share this broadcast on social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in. Who still needs to register for the online class I teach on Saturdays and Sundays? Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa. Understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. And from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. Stand by. Bathroom break in 4 minutes. Bathroom break in 3 minutes. Bathroom break in 2 minutes. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, March 6th, 2022, and we are live. Calling numbers 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the calling number if you have a question or comment. All right, look, we had two great classes that I taught this weekend. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. And from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can still register for those online classes there. So 10-week online classes that I teach. We deal with thousands of years of history and what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. So I'll give you more information on that. Okay, also on today's show, the Tucker Carlson, we talked about this on Thursday's show. Tucker Carlson stuck his foot in his mouth again. Fox News, Tucker Carlson, a little white nationalist, Tucker Carlson, okay. He's demanding to see the Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson's LSAT scores to determine her qualifications to be on the U.S. Supreme Court. Okay, Joe Biden's nominee for the U.S. Supreme Court Ketanji Brown Jackson. We're going to talk a little bit about this as well. Joanne Reed dealt with this also. We talked about it on our Thursday show. So we're going to squeeze that in as well on today's show. Now, on the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's correct your own behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you read, heard, and seen about yourself. Because when you control the radius of a man or woman's thoughts, you control the circumference of his or her actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know. Now, we deal with a number of different topics here on the African History Network show. We deal with current events and history and politics, education, economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, relationships, love, sex, health issues, and much, much more. Sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word Kemet, Kemet, to 22828 to sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word Kemet, Kemet, to 22828 to sign up for our email newsletter. Also visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. All right, we're going to go to clip number one here, Jalen, from NBC Nightly News on Brittney Griner here in just a second. So if we look at this story here, and then we'll go to the phone lines. If we look at this story here from New York Times. Brittney Griner, star WNBA center, is detained in Russia. Russian customs officials said a U.S. basketball player had vape cartridges containing hashish oil in her luggage. A Russian news agency identified the player as Brittney Griner. So the story is from March 5th, Saturday, March 5th, updated March 6th. Russia said on Saturday, March 5th, that it had detained an American basketball player. Later identified as Phoenix Mercury Center Brittney Griner, on drug charges, entangling a U.S. citizen's fate in the dangerous confrontation between Russia and the rest of Ukraine. Now, the Russian Federal Customs Service said its officials had detained Brittney Griner after finding vape cartridges that contained hashish oil in her luggage at the Sheremetyevo airport near Moscow. And it released a video of a traveler going through airport security who appeared to be Brittney Griner. The Customs Service did not release the player's name, but the Russian news agency TASS, T-A-S-S, or TASS, citing a law enforcement source, identified the player as Brittney Griner, seven-time WNBA, seven-time WNBA All-Star center for the Phoenix Mercury. In a statement, Brittney Griner's agent, Lindsay Kagawa-Colas, did not dispute reports of her client's detention. Quote, "We are aware of the situation with Brittney Griner in Russia and are in close contact with her legal representation in Russia, her family, her teams, and the WNBA and NBA," she said. Now, in hearing this story on Saturday and reading about it from the New York Post, because that was the first story I saw about this, they said that her last post on Instagram was on February 5th. Her last post on Instagram was on February 5th. So it's suspected that she's been in custody for a few weeks. Okay. Now, and we're going to, let me see, we're going to get that clip to you, Jalen. So it's suspected that she's been in custody for a few weeks here. All right. Let's go back to this. I want to go back to the article from the New York Times. Now, Brittany Griner's detention comes at the most dangerous moment in U.S.-Russia relations since the Cuban Missile Crisis, as the Biden administration leads dozens of nations in imposing crushing sanctions on Russia's economy and its political elites. So the sanctions are tightening up day by day on Russia and the Russian oligarchs. We see Visa and MasterCard are going to stop doing transactions in Russia. We see American Express is going to do the same thing. We see Netflix is going to stop streaming in Russia. We see day after day after day more and more crushing sanctions put on Russia. President Vladimir Putin of Russia said on Saturday that the sanctions were, quote, akin to declaration of war, end quote, against his country. Well, you're the one that went into Ukraine. You should have kept your thug behind in Russia. You're the one that went to Ukraine. You're the one that sent troops into Ukraine. Now, also on Saturday, the State Department, which for weeks had warned Americans against traveling to Russia, released an updated advisory urging U.S. citizens to leave Russia immediately. Okay, so this is escalating. This is escalated since our show last Thursday. I mean, last Sunday. This is escalated since our February 27th show, Sunday, February 27th. On Saturday, March 5th, the U.S. State Department, which for weeks had warned Americans against traveling to Russia, released an updated advisory urging U.S. citizens to leave the country immediately, citing the invasion in Ukraine, the, quote, potential for harassment against U.S. citizens by Russian government security officials, and the limited ability of the U.S. Embassy in Moscow to assist American citizens in the country. Now, Michael McFaul, a former U.S. ambassador to Moscow, who you'll see is an analyst on MSNBC, and he's pretty much on MSNBC every day now with this invasion taking place. Michael McFaul said, I obviously don't know the circumstances of her detention, but Griner's arrest should serve as a wake-up call to all Americans in Russia. Griner's arrest should serve as a wake-up call to all Americans in Russia. Get out, shut down your businesses now. And he's been to Russia many times. Now, the video released by Russia's Customs Service showed a traveler passing through security screening, followed by footage of someone examining a package that appeared to be from the traveler's bag. It was like a screener examining a package that appeared to be from her bag. The screening at the airport occurred in February, according to the Customs Service, raising the possibility that Brittney Griner, who's 31 years old, has been in custody for at least several days. Now, the Customs Service, it could be a few weeks, because the last post on our Instagram page is February 5th. The Customs Service said that a criminal case had been opened into the large-scale transportation of drugs, which can carry a sentence of up to 10 years in prison in Russia. Hashish oil, or hash oil, is a marijuana concentrate that has a high concentration of the plant's main psychoactive ingredient, THC. It can be consumed in many ways, but it is commonly sold in cartridges that are used in vape pens. Okay. Now, she may, if this is hers, she may vape. A lot of people vape. I don't smoke cigarettes, don't smoke marijuana, don't drink alcohol, don't do any of that. But I don't think she was drug trafficking. I don't think she's like Frank Lucas, like smuggling drugs into the U.S. We'll continue this on the other side of the break. We'll also go to the phone lines, and then I'm going to deconstruct Joe Biden's State of the Union address and his statement where he said, we don't want to defund the police. We want to fund the police. And a lot of the woke activists are going crazy. But You do realize the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act doesn't defund the police, it actually funds the police. You do realize that. That's not me saying that. Senator Cory Booker, who helped write the bill, said that. Listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by. Back from break in 4 minutes. How's everybody doing? How's everybody doing? Share this broadcast on social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in. Okay, I got to get ready for this next segment. Okay, back from break in 4 minutes. Stand by, everybody. We're on commercial break. Stand by, everybody. Back from break in 3 minutes. Okay, share this broadcast on social media platforms. Give a thumbs up, give us a heart if you like this broadcast. Back from break in 2 minutes. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation The Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, March 6, 2022, and we are live. Calling numbers 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. Okay, Jalen, I'm sending this clip to you now of Brittney Griner. Cue that up. We're going to that next. Okay, calling number is 313-778-7600. Okay, so right before the break, we're giving an update on what's going on with Brittney Griner. We're also talking about Ukraine. We'll talk. So, last Sunday, our February 27th show, we talked about the mistreatment of African immigrants trying to get out of Ukraine, especially those who were headed into Poland, And we know Poland borders Ukraine, Poland, Hungary, Romania. Those all border Ukraine. There's a global group of Black attorneys who will file a UN complaint for African refugees. Okay, and the group of attorneys include Benjamin Crump. We'll discuss this as well. An alliance of prominent civil rights lawyers from around the world on Wednesday, this past Wednesday, which was March 3rd, I think that was. A prominent group of, that was March 2nd. An alliance of prominent civil rights lawyers from around the world on Wednesday announced it will file an appeal to the United Nations on behalf of Black refugees facing discrimination while trying to flee Ukraine. The group includes Benjamin Crump, the civil rights attorney for the families of George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery, attorney Jasmine Rand, who represented the families of Trayvon Martin and Michael Brown, Peter Herbert, one of Britain's few non-white judges, Jamaican member of Parliament G. Anthony Hilton, British solicitor Jacqueline McKenzie, and Carlos Moore, president of the National Bar Association in the U.S. They plan to file the appeal to the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, as well as the UN's Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination. There's a tweet here from Benjamin Crump's law firm also. So we'll talk about this a little bit later in the show. Okay, so I want to go back to the story here dealing with Brittney Griner. We'll go to the phone lines in just a minute. Everybody stand by. New York Times has a big article on this. Brittney Griner, star WNBA Center, is detailed in Russia. This is from March 5th, 2022. So the article goes on to say the incident comes amid intense repression within Russia as Vladimir Putin cracks down on internal dissent to a degree analysts say they have not seen since the days of the Soviet Communist Party. In recent years, U.S. officials have accused Russia of detaining and sentencing American citizens on trumped-up charges. The detaining of a high-profile American could even be an effort by Russia to gain leverage in the political and economic standoff with Washington over the Ukraine invasion. Okay, Jayla, let's go to this clip. Let's go to clip one from. Let's go to this clip from NBC Nightly News about Brittney Griner.
Tonight, growing concerns over WNBA star and two-time Olympic gold medalist Brittney Griner, arrested by Russian federal customs officials on drug charges. This weekend, they released a video showing a traveler believed to be Griner going through airport security, followed by a closer inspection of her suitcase. The Customs Service saying they found vape cartridges containing hash oil, an offense which could carry a 10-year prison sentence.
So how worried should we be about Brittney's well-being right now? Unfortunately, Kathy, I think we should be really worried. Once they figured out who she was, given the timing and everything that's happening right now, it's undeniable that she's now being held as part of a pawn in this geopolitical standoff and in the war in Ukraine.
Her arrest comes amid heightened tensions between the U.S. and Russia as the war in Ukraine enters another week. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, when asked about Griner, said,
"Whenever an American is detained anywhere in the world, we, of course, stand ready to provide every possible assistance, and that includes in Russia."
The 31-year-old center with the Phoenix Mercury has played in Russia during the last 7 years during the NBA offseason. Her team tweeting, "Our main concern is her safety, physical and mental health." With reports Griner has been detained for weeks, Griner's wife posted, "This message comes during one of the weakest moments of my life. We continue to work on getting my wife home safely." A spokesperson for the WNBA says that other than Griner, all players with the league are now out of Russia and Ukraine.
All right. Thanks, Jalen. Okay, so that's from NBC Nightly News. That's from March 6th, 2022. And then NBC News has this story as well. For more information, you can check this out. Brittney Griner's wife posts on Instagram about WNBA stars detainment in Russia. Okay, that is from March 6th, 2022 also. You can check that out as well. All right, let's go to the phone lines. Let's go to line one. Who we have on line one? Is this Michael on line one? Who we have on line one, Jalen?
We have Sylvia.
Sylvia, line one. Hey, Sylvia, welcome to the African History Network show. Thanks for calling and thanks for holding. Tell us where you're calling from.
Yeah, this is Sylvia in Detroit. My issue is who travels with cannabis knowing that there are checkpoints, and especially going to another country with cannabis, which federally is still not so freely, legal.
Well, they were vaping cartridges. Sylvia, you'd be surprised who travels. You'd be surprised who travels and gets caught. But these were vaping cartridges that had sheesh oil in them. You'd be surprised who travels and gets caught.
That's what's so crazy when you know you got checkpoints. And also with the students, why did the students choose to go there? Was there scholarships and affordability of something that lured them over there?
A lot of students go there for the educational opportunities. They have good educational opportunities in Ukraine at affordable costs. There was a story that we dealt with earlier in the week that talked about that as well. We'll go to that shortly. I'll pull that story back up. But it talked about the educational opportunities there. Okay. All right.
That is all I had to ask you because I thought it was so crazy, and I was just wondering how they were luring the rest of the people over there. But you said,
there's students from there's students from India, there's students from Morocco, they're Middle Eastern students who go to Ukraine for education. There was a story from the BBC that dealt with why they go to Ukraine.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. All right.
I'll keep listening.
Question. Thank you for taking my call.
Okay. Thanks for calling. All right. Let's go to line 2, Jalen. We have who we have on line 2. Is that Larry?
Well, we lost Larry.
Okay, Larry, call back. Sometimes it's a little wait to get in. Call back, Larry. Anybody else on the line, Jalen?
No callers.
Okay, call in number is 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. All right. So there was a story from businessinsider.com, because the first thing that I thought about was when I heard about Brittney Griner, I said, well, why would she's a top WNBA star. I said, she must be playing in Russia. She must be playing for a Russian league in the offseason. Keep in mind, she's doing this in the offseason, the WNBA offseason. She's playing in a foreign league. I mean, the offseason, you should take off, let your body rest. I said, she must be doing this to make money. And then I saw this article from businessinsider.com, how low WNBA salaries led to an American basketball superstar's detainment in Russia. This is by Meredith Cash, March 5th, 2022. How low WNBA salaries led to an American basketball superstar's detainment in Russia. So it talks about American basketball star Brittney Griner has been detained in Russia and faces drug smuggling charges. The Olympic gold medalist spends her WNBA off seasons competing for Russian club UMMC. Griner and other women's basketball stars command much higher salaries overseas than in the U.S. 7-time WNBA All-Star and 2-time Olympic gold medalist Brittney Griner was arrested at a Moscow airport in February for possession of vape cartridges filled with cannabis oil, hashish oil. The 6'9" Phoenix Mercury superstar now faces up to 10 years in a Russian prison for, quote, large-scale transportation of drugs. What Russians are saying is large-scale transportation of drugs, according to the New York Times. Now, Griner has already been detained in the country for 3 weeks, according to a fellow WNBA player, and given and given escalating tensions between the United States and Putin's regime, could spend an extended period of time in Russian custody. The horrifying situation has shaken the American sports landscape. Like many other women's basketball players, Griner spends her WNBA offseason competing overseas. Since 2014, Brittney Griner has suited up for the Russian powerhouse UMMC Ekaterinburg, alongside a rotating group of fellow WNBA superstars, including Breanna Stewart, Jonquel Jones, Allie Quigley, Courtney Vandersloot, and Emma Messman. Okay, we'll continue this on the other side of the break. Listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by. Back from break in 4 minutes. Share this broadcast on your social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in. Stand by, everybody. Back from break in 2 minutes.
The invention process. We create professional materials representing your idea and submit it to companies who are looking for new ideas. We have more than 9,000 companies who have agreed to review ideas in confidence. If a company shows interest in manufacturing your invention, we can negotiate on your behalf. We have helped over 10,000 clients receive patents. We also offer services including 3D modeling and animation demonstrating your idea, prototyping services, and we use state-of-the-art technology to show InventHelp client ideas to additional companies. Join the thousands of people just like you who chose InventHelp to pursue their idea. We are experienced. We are working for you. We are InventHelp.
Call us for free information at 1-800-460-1663. That's 1-800-460-1663. Again, 1-800-460-1663.
9 Canadian Superstation has the greatest advertising deal ever with our Godfather package. 200 spots for $500 with a must-air within 30-day policy. That is only $2.50 per spot. And
stand by. After breaking 1 minute. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, March 6th, 2022, and we are live. All right, Jalen, I'm about to send you this other clip here dealing with Ukraine. Because we're gonna go to that also. We're gonna go back to I want to go back to this article dealing with I want to go back to this article dealing from businessinsider.com dealing with the low pay of WNBA players. Okay, dealing with the low pay of WNBA players. All right, cue that clip. I just sent you a clip from NBC News dealing with Ukraine, Jalen. So cue that up, please. All right, so as I said before the break, when I first heard this story about Brittney Griner playing for a team in Russia during the WNBA offseason, first thing I thought is, okay, because of the low pay in the WNBA, she's doing this to make money. All of these players. So this piece said that, like many other women's basketball players, Brittney Griner spends her WNBA offseason competing overseas. Since 2014, she's played for the Russian powerhouse UMMC, along with other WNBA superstars. Now, all of these players command significantly higher salaries abroad, overseas, than they can possibly earn in the U.S. This year, Brittney Griner is set to take home a league maximum of $227,900 annual salary from the Phoenix Mercury. But only in recent years has her payday climbed into the six-figure range, playing in the WNBA. I mean, how much the amount of money they get paid in the WNBA is criminally low. Okay, she's in the WNBA. Okay, she makes a league maximum of $227,900. But only in recent years has her payday climbed into the six-figure range. She reportedly earns $1 million per season with the Russian UMMC team, per the Arizona Republic's Jet Matcliffe. So she gets paid almost five times. Well, it's a little more than 4 times as much playing overseas than she does in the WNBA. Even under ordinary circumstances, this 2-season per year lifestyle is far from ideal. Without proper time to rest and rehabilitate, pay attention to this, without proper time to rest and rehabilitate their bodies, athletes like Brittney Griner often find themselves dealing with nagging injuries in addition to accelerated wear and tear that can cut their professional careers short. But not only that, they end up not only that, many of them have lifelong injuries, which require surgeries throughout the duration of their life. But during moments of international crisis, like the early days of the pandemic or right now, as Russia wages war in Ukraine, WNBA players take on second jobs overseas because it becomes all the more perilous. WNBA players taking on second jobs overseas becomes all the more perilous. Thanks to the rapidly deteriorating relationships between her home country, the U.S., and her off-season abode, Russia, Brittney Griner may be a pawn in a fiery feud between two global superpowers. According to the New York Times, Brittney Griner's arrest could be linked to a Russian effort to create leverage for a potential prisoner exchange with the American government or a reduction in sanctions related to the Ukraine invasion. In the past, the New York Times' Jonathan Abrams continues in that same article, quote, Russia has been detaining and sentencing American citizens on what United States officials often say are trumped up charges, end quote. They may release a video of her admitting to doing something. She may be coerced to do a video admitting to do something, and they'll use that. Russia will use that as leverage as well. Whether her detainment is connected to the larger geopolitical feud or not, Brittney Griner almost certainly would not be in this situation if not for this pay disparity. Had she made even a fraction of what her NBA counterparts do playing domestically, Brittney Griner could have stayed in the United States for the offseason without fear that she would not have enough money for retirement. She could have rested her 6'9" frame ahead of this summer's WNBA season, as her reloaded Phoenix Mercury squad sets its sights on a second straight WNBA finals appearance, and she could have spent time back home with friends and loved ones. Most importantly, had she been offered an opportunity to make $1 million in America instead of Russia, Brittney Griner could have avoided jail time under a hostile foreign power. Read this article here from businessinsider.com. Because I've seen, number one, I remember when the WNBA started, okay? And over the years, I've seen numerous stories that have talked about the extremely low pay that these professional stars make, even after they go to the Olympics and represent their country in the Olympics and win gold, go for the gold, win gold, all this stuff. And they get extremely low pay in the WNBA. Okay, read this from businessinsider.com. All right, now, when Sylvia called in, Sylvia asked a question about why do they go to the Ukraine or go to Ukraine for education. So we talked about this early in the week. BBC had a good article on this. Why so many African and Indian students were in the country, in Ukraine? Why so many African and Indian students were in Ukraine? We'll deal with this on the other side of the break. I'll let you hear what happened when I was on Roland Martin Unfiltered Friday. Dan Abrams of News Nation had Roland on and misrepresented a tweet from Roland dealing with firing police officers. I brought up Joe Biden's State of the Union address when he said we don't want to defund the police, we want to fund the police. And I referenced this back to Joe Biden's June 2020 op-ed article for USA Today, where he said the same thing when he was running on the presidential campaign trail. But also the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act does not defund the police. It actually funds the police if you know what it does, but it does it in a good way. I'm going to deconstruct this on the other side of the break. Listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by. Okay, share this broadcast on social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in. How's everybody doing? All right, if you like this type of information, you support the African History Network, $sign the AHN show through Cash App, $sign the AHN show through Cash App, also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show. We're 6 days a week. That helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting, pay some of the bills, etc. Who still needs to register for the online classes I teach on Saturdays and Sundays? Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa. Understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. And from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. So we had two great classes this week. These are 10-week online classes I teach. All right, stand by. Next class is Saturday, March 12th. Okay, next class is Saturday, March 12th. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Classes on sale, $60, regularly $130. And even after the course is over, if you have full access, you can watch the class as much as you want to. Even a year from now, you can watch the class. We have a bundle pack where you get both classes that I teach, both courses, on sale for $100, regularly $130. I'm sorry, regularly $260. Okay, so those watching on Facebook and YouTube, let me know if the signal is coming through now. All right, so you can still register for the online class I teach on Saturdays and Sundays. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. I deal with thousands of years of history and what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. I do a PowerPoint presentation. We have book references, articles, video clips, all that and more. This is a 10-week online class. And the class is regularly $130. It's on sale, $60. Okay. If you've taken any of my online classes in the past, email me at AHNshow@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AHNshow@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You get a 50% discount on the classes. And we have a bundle pack where you can register for both classes that I teach for $100. That's a $260 value. The second class that I teach is on Sundays, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. So we deal with the history from that period of time, from the beginning of the Civil War and even what leads up to the Civil War taking place. So we start with the Louisiana Purchase of 1803. We start with the Louisiana Purchase of 1803 and go through our history through 1968. And that one's on sale, $60 also, regularly $130. Okay, so visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, and also email me at AHNshow@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. All right, we'll see you in class. We'll see you. And also, as soon as you register, you can watch the classes we just did this weekend. You can watch last week's class also. All right. Okay, I want to go back to this story here. So the question was asked, why were so many African students in Ukraine for educational purposes? So if we look at this story here from the BBC, we talked about this earlier in the week. If we look at the story from the BBC, Ukraine, why so many African and Indian students were in the country. It talks about the Russian invasion of Ukraine has caused a mass exodus of civilians, including thousands of international students from Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. Ukraine was home to over 76,000 foreign students, according to government data from 2020. Ukraine was home to over 76,000 foreign students, according to government data from 2020. Nearly a quarter of the students were from Africa, with the largest numbers coming from Nigeria, Morocco, and Egypt. India easily accounts for the highest portion, with over 20,000 students, okay, in Ukraine. Now, the students are studying medicine, engineering, and business, and are important, and these are an important part of the country's economy. But as Russia launches the biggest European invasion since the Second World War, thousands of them have fled, hundreds are still trapped, and many remain uncertain about the fate of their education. Okay. Okay, so read the rest of this article here. Now, I want to go to this clip here. We're going to go to this clip that I just sent you, Jalen. And this is from NBC News. This is, as long as you are Black, no one likes you. Students allege racism during escape from Ukraine. This is from March 2nd, 2022. Let's go to this clip, Jalen.
Tonight in Ukraine, peace never had a chance. Overnight, Russians and Ukrainians agreeing to a partial ceasefire, allowing civilians in the devastated city of Mariupol to flee. But just hours later, while we were preparing to leave, the Russians started shelling the evacuation corridor, said the mayor. There was no ceasefire. Russia said it was the Ukrainians who broke the deal. Ukrainian President Zelensky calling his citizens to go on the offensive. This woman's 18-month-old son was killed yesterday. The doctors couldn't save him, she wailed, asking over and over again, why? People in this town have suffered days without heat, water, and electricity, and face devastating Russian bombardment on civilian targets, according to Ukraine, a charge Russia denies. Outgunned and outmanned, the Ukrainians are still fighting 10 days into Russia's invasion, taking down a Russian helicopter and shooting down a Russian jet north of Kyiv, killing one of its pilots. Russia's sprawling 40-mile convoy of armored vehicles, failing to advance, still stalled outside Kyiv for nearly a week, as civilians in the capital overcome obstacles like this destroyed bridge to get to safety. Zelensky admonishing NATO for not implementing a flight ban. Starting from today, everyone who dies will die because of you as well, he said, because of your weakness, because of your disunity. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken warning a no-fly zone could put NATO forces in direct conflict with Russia. But Russia's president is doubling down, telling flight attendants of the state airline that a no-fly zone and Western sanctions are a declaration of war. Any move in that direction will be considered by us as participation of that country in the military action, he said. Ukraine must be demilitarized and denazified, he said. That's the only message most Russians will hear about Putin's war. The harsh new media law comes into effect today, imposing a 15-year punishment on whoever spreads so-called fake news about the invasion. Independent media outlets are closing and being shut down. Staff at the Russian network TV Rain walked off set in unison during their last broadcast, leaving viewers old footage of Swan Lake, what the Soviet Union used to broadcast during times of strife. A chilling reminder of how Putin's new Russia is looking more like the old.
And Matt Bradley joins us tonight from Rivne. There is concern, Matt, about another nuclear plant tonight.
That's right, Jose. After that close call with a nuclear power plant on Thursday night, President Zelensky warned U.S. lawmakers the Russians are now closing in on yet another nuclear power plant, this one a little further to the west.
Okay, so that was the clip that I wanted, Jalen, is that's dealing with the 10th day of the invasion that you just played. Go to the one that says as long as you are black, from NBC Nightly News. Okay, so that was that clip was from Saturday, March 5th, 2022. That's dealing with the 10th day of the Russian invasion. We know the day is the 11th day. The invasion started Thursday, February 24th. Quick update from the Washington Post. Live updates from the Washington Post. Civilian toll mounts in Ukraine as world leaders raise question of war crimes. U.S. discusses oil exports with Venezuela amid a proposal to ban Russian fuel. 2 Ukrainian children killed in front of my own eyes while trying to evacuate, officials say. More than 4,500 anti-war protesters arrested in one day in Russia, group says. We know about 1.6 million, 1.6 million people have fled Ukraine now, about half of them going to Poland. U.S. officials have seen credible reports of intentional Russian attacks on civilians and are documenting actions that could constitute a war crime, U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said Sunday. Quote, we've seen very credible reports of deliberate attacks on civilians, which would constitute a war crime, Blinken said on CNN's State of the Union. We've seen very credible reports about the use of certain weapons. Okay, about the use of certain weapons. Now, a total of 364 civilians have been killed and 759 injured since fighting began on February 24th, according to the United Nations Human Rights Office. Speaking on a day known as Forgiveness Day to Orthodox Christians, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky declared in a video message, "We won't forgive," quote unquote, "We won't forgive." Okay, do we have the clip queued up, Jalen?
Mostly they would consider white people first, Indian people, Arabic people, before black people. As long as you're black, no one likes you. I remember they punched a certain black guy, a policeman in Ukraine punched a certain black guy for nothing. He was shot for nothing. Yes. So like I said earlier on, they consider white people before considering black people. Yes.
And after that, we went to the train station, and they will not let us in. And when they did let us in, they were like, "You have to give us money because this is not for free for you because you're foreign. This is not free for you. You have to pay for it." Maybe it's safe for war. Maybe people start feeling stressed. They want their people to get first. Of course, everyone wants the people to be saved, so they had to express that in a way. So I understand that, but at the same time, you should at least, say it in a nice way.
In Ukraine, there is some kind of this battles. There are so many people there, and the police don't let. They do like kind of racism against foreigners. They let Ukrainian people cross first, and then they let us cross. But I don't speak in general. There is some few cases that do that.
All right. So that was from March 2nd, 2022, NBC News. Check out the article from NBC News. Black immigrants choose Ukraine for quality of life, education. War leaves them fearful. Black immigrants choose Ukraine for quality of life, education. War leaves them fearful. Thousands of African and Black people have made Ukraine their home and report rarely dealing with racism. The humanitarian crisis, however, has called their lives into question. And they have the clip that we just played also. They interviewed the sister there. So read this article here from NBC News. Okay. So I want to go to so we did the update on what's going on in Ukraine. Now, Face to Face Africa has a good article. And also this is Ghana's Independence Day, also March 6, 1957. Okay, when Kwame Nkrumah declared their independence. So happy Independence Day to Ghana. Black women raised $60,000 to help Black students flee Ukraine after reports of mistreatment. So this is a good article and something good people are doing. And there's a lot of good that people are doing. Everything from the attorneys filing the appeal with the United Nations to support for Africans trying to get out of Ukraine, etc. So this is from March 4th, 2022 from face-to-faceafrica.com. 3 Black women have raised more than $60,000 to help Black students flee Ukraine as Russia continues to attack the European country. Patricia Daly, who's 29 years old, she's a 29-year-old barrister in London, and her friend, 40-year-old social worker Tokunbo Koiki, got to know via Twitter the story of a young Black student who was documenting her difficult journey to escape Ukraine. The young woman, Corinne Sky, who we've talked about here on the show before, was studying in the eastern city of Dnipro in Russia when invaded by Ukraine February 24th, according to Sky News. Daly and Koiki later contacted Corinne Sky, who has since fled to Romania. The 3 women started a campaign to help other Black students leave Ukraine amid the chaos. We'll continue this on the other side of the break. Listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. All right, stand by, everybody. Back from break in 4 minutes. Stand by. Back from break in 1 minute. Welcome back to the African History Network. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, March 6, 2022. And we are live. Calling numbers 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the calling number if you have a question or comment. Okay, so right before the break, we were talking about this great story of Black women who raised $60,000 to help Black students flee Ukraine after reports of mistreatment. This is from March 4, 2022, from this is from face-to-faceafrica.com, face-to-faceafrica.com. Okay, we're going to go to Joe Biden's State of the Union address, Jalen, in just a minute. So cue that clip up. Okay. We're going to that next. So you have Patricia Daly and Tokunbo Koiki, who found out about what's going on with the plight of African students. They found out on Twitter. And they found out about Corinne Sky, 26 years old, who's fleeing Ukraine. We talked about Corinne here on the show. Corinne safely made it to Romania. The three women started a campaign to help other Black students leave Ukraine amid the chaos. So the women told Sky News that they had helped more than 500 Black students to flee Ukraine through, quote, funding transport costs like arranging taxis and other emergency needs. Funding transport costs like arranging taxis and other emergency needs. What has been worrying since last week is the number of African students stranded in Ukraine. Apart from many Africans traveling to Ukraine to work, there are those who go there to study thanks to the European country's affordable tuition fees and its ties to Africa. Currently, Morocco, Nigeria, and Egypt are the African countries with the most students in Ukraine, with Morocco having about 8,000 students and Nigeria with 4,000 students. Okay. Now, many have since been concerned about their safety. This week, African students and families trapped in Ukraine said they were blocked from boarding trains or crossing borders to neighboring countries. Nigerian students and other Africans in Ukraine spoke on Twitter about their plight while creating chats on Telegram and WhatsApp, the WhatsApp app, where they shared videos that appear to show Africans being blocked from fleeing the country. Okay, so check out the rest of this article here. There's a great story of what they're doing. Black women raised $60,000 to help Black students flee Ukraine after reports of mistreatment. This is by Mildred Europa Taylor, March 4th, 2022, for face-to-faceafrica.com. All right. So this past week, Joe Biden did his State of the Union address. And a good portion of it in the beginning was dealing with Ukraine, okay? And then he dealt with domestic issues, okay? And this was on Tuesday, okay? I think that was Tuesday, March 1st. So, and also NBC News has a good article to read, 5 takeaways from Biden's State of the Union speech. Washington Post has a story as well, dealing with this as well. Takeaways from Biden's State of the Union address also. You can check that out as well. I want to go to this recap of what Biden talked about. And there's a piece here. So a lot of people are talking about Biden saying, we don't want to defund the police, we want to fund the police. And there's controversy behind that. And a lot of activists are complaining, Black Lives Matter activists, things like that. But that's what Biden was saying on the campaign trail. And many of these same people are advocating for the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. But the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act does not defund the police. It actually funds the police, but it does it in a responsible way. Now, I talked about this a little bit on Roland Martin Unfiltered when I was on Friday, March 4th. But due to time constraints, I didn't get a chance to get deep into it like I want to. So we're going to deconstruct this here right now. Let's go to this clip, Jalen.
My fellow Americans, last year, COVID-19 kept us apart. This year, we're finally together again. Tonight, 6 days ago, Russia's Vladimir Putin sought to shake the very foundations of the free world, thinking he could make it bend to his menacing ways. But he badly miscalculated. He thought he could roll into Ukraine and the world would roll over. Instead, he met with a wall of strength he never anticipated or imagined. He met the Ukrainian people. For more than 2 years, COVID has impacted every decision in our lives and the life of this nation. And I know you're tired, frustrated, and exhausted. That doesn't even count close to 1 million people who sit at a dining room table or a kitchen table and look at an empty chair. Let's use this moment to reset. So stop looking at COVID as a partisan dividing line. See it for what it is. One way to fight inflation is to drive down wages and make Americans poor. I think I have a better idea to fight inflation. Lower your costs, not your wages. Folks, let's come together and protect our communities, restore trust, and hold law enforcement accountable. We should all agree the answer is not to defund the police, it's to fund the police. Fund it. In state after state, new laws have been passed. Not only to suppress the vote, we've been there before, but to subvert the entire election. We can't let this happen. Tonight I call on the Senate to pass the Freedom to Vote Act, pass the John Lewis Act, Voting Rights Act. So on this night, on our 245th year as a nation, I've come to report on the state of the nation, the State of the Union. And my report is this: the State of the Union is strong because you, the American people, are strong. We are stronger today than we were a year ago. And we'll be stronger a year from now than we are today. This is our moment to meet and overcome the challenges of our time. And we will, as one people, one America, the United States of America. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you. Go get him.
All right, so I watched the speech live. I watched it again because I recorded it. And I mean, he has made some good points in there. Check out the 5 takeaways from Biden's State of the Union address from NBC News. They talk about Ukraine. Biden aimed for unity and got it with few exceptions. Yeah, two dumbasses, Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene, who were heckling Joe Biden. Two idiots from the Republican Party. A COVID victory lap before a mostly maskless crowd, blaming inflation on corporate greed. Biden pushes anew for Build Back Better priorities without using the name. Just get the bill passed. Just get the bills passed. So it don't really matter what you call it. Just get the bills passed. Democracy versus autocracy, things like this. Ukraine took up a good portion, about first 15, 20 minutes or so was on Ukraine. All right. So a lot of people were complaining about him saying, we don't want to defund the police. We want to fund the police. I guess they forgot what Biden said on the campaign trail in June of 2020, the op-ed article that he wrote for USA Today. Now, we talked about this here on this show when it came out, because we actually did with like real substance on this show. So if you've been watching me for any time during the campaign, you know we talked about this. Biden, we must urgently root out systemic racism from policing to, let me see, pull this up here. We must urgently root out systemic racism from policing to housing opportunity. Federal dollars did not go to departments that violate people's rights or turn to violence as a resort, but I don't support defunding the police. Now, this came out June 10th, 2020, during the presidential campaign. Joe Biden wrote this. We talked about it here on this show. He's not for defunding the police. He then goes through in this piece here. He then goes through and breaks down. He goes through and breaks this down, and he talks about. There's a piece here. There's a section where he talks about don't defund the police, support reforms. And he goes through, explains these. What he said in the State of the Union address is a boiled down version of this, but also the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act does not defund the police. It actually funds the police, but it does it in a good way, which falls in line with what Joe Biden said here. We're going to break all this down on the other side of the break. I talked about this a little bit on Roland Martin Unfiltered on Friday. You listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by. Well, they want fools for voting for him, Roman Draco. You don't do research. If you read this goddamn article, you know better. This is what happens when you come here and have no clue what you're talking about. He goes through and explains what he's talking about with funding police, but also holding them accountable. Robert said, I remember you talking about this. See, this is what happens when people come here and don't know what the hell they're talking about. Yeah, Robert remembers me talking about this. And we went and I said, good that Biden does not support defunding the police. And I'm going to go through and show you polls. What poll after poll after poll shows the overwhelming majority of African Americans don't support defunding the police as well. They want good policing. They want bad policing. They want officers who do wrong held accountable. But they don't want to defund the police either. Okay, stand by. And the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act adds millions more to funding policing. That's not me saying that. That's Senator Cory Booker, who helped write the bill, who said that. We're going to break all this stuff down because there's a whole lot of misinformation floating around by a bunch of woke ass people who have no clue what they're talking about. Stand by. I got to get ready for this next segment. Back from break in 3 minutes. All right, stand by. Okay. Let's go there. Let's pull up George Floyd, Justice and Police in that. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, March 6, 2022, and we are live. Okay, so right before the break, we're laying this out, dealing with Joe Biden's comments, and a bunch of woke people don't know what they're talking about. I'm going to go through and break this down step by step. This is what happens when people come here and make comments and don't read. Okay, I can tell what you didn't read by what you say. So I was dealing with what I talked about back in June of 2020 on this show, because we actually deal with substance on this show. And Joe Biden's op-ed article, opinion contributors op-ed article he wrote for USA Today during the 2020 presidential campaign, where he laid all this out. Biden, we must urgently root out systemic racism from policing to housing opportunity. Federal dollars should not go to departments that violate people's rights or turn to violence as a first resort. But I don't support defunding the police. Now, this is what he said then. I broke this down on the show when this came out June 10th, 2020. I said he's absolutely correct. And he goes through and lays all this stuff out. I need to close this video. He goes through and lays all this out. And hold on just a second. So in the article, he starts out,
and anything could happen.
Hold on.
Only
Okay, so in the article, he starts out dealing with undoing systemic economic racism. He talks about we should also be directing our resources to actively undo the negative effect of systemic racism has on opportunities for Black Americans. He talks about entrepreneurs being rejected for loans, all this stuff. He lays this out here with systemic racism. He then goes in and then starts laying out, don't defund police, support reforms. Okay. So I'm going to bring this back up again here because they had an ad playing and I'm trying to close this out here. All right. So let's try this again. I hate all these ads that pop up. All right. USA Today. We're going to go to the clip from Roland Martin Unfiltered here in just a second, Jalen. Okay, so if you scroll down in this ad, so undo systemic economic racism, okay, all for that. And they have executive orders that address this. There's going to be more legislation as well. Then, okay, so they talk about this. You scroll down. Don't defund police, support reforms. If state and local governments fail to make necessary changes, the Department of Justice must have subpoena power for pattern or practice investigations into systemic misconduct by police departments and force these departments to reform. Okay. And they do that through federal oversight. They do that. It's monitored by a federal judge. Okay. These patterns and practices into police departments. While I do not believe federal dollars should go to police departments violating people's rights or turning to violence as the first resort, I do not support defunding the police. The better answer is to give police departments the resources they need to implement meaningful reforms and to condition other federal dollars on completing those reforms. Okay, condition other federal dollars on completing those reforms. I've long been a firm believer in the power of community policing, getting cops out of their cruisers and building relationships with the people and the communities that are there to serve and protect. That's why I'm proposing an additional $300 million to reinvigorate community policing in our community. Every single police department should have the money it needs to institute real reforms, like adopting a national use of force standard, buying body cameras, and recruiting more diverse police officers. Okay, and we need to prevent 911 calls in scenarios where police should not be our first responders. We need to prevent 911 calls in scenarios where police should not be our first responders. That means making serious investments in mental health services, like he mentioned in the State of the Union address. That means making serious investments in mental health services, drug treatment and prevention programs, and services for people experiencing homelessness. That may also mean having social service providers respond to calls with police officers. Now, he laid this out June 10th, 2020, during the presidential campaign. All right. Read the rest of this here. Now, some people don't read. Biden, we must urgently root out systemic racism from policing to housing to opportunity. Okay, so we're going to the first clip from Roland Martin Unfiltered, Jalen. So Friday, I was on Roland Martin Unfiltered, Friday, March 4th. And we talked about, Roland was on Dan Abrams' show on News Nation. I didn't even know Dan Abrams had a show on News Nation. Dan Abrams was he's the chief legal analyst for on ABC News, chief legal analyst on ABC News. And Dan Abrams misrepresented some tweets that Roland did about prosecuting police officers. And then we started talking about it. And I connected this to the statement Joe Biden made about we don't want to defund the police, we want to fund the police. Let's go to this clip, Jalen. Let's go to the first clip from Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Start Network. So yesterday, my publicist hit me up saying, folks at News Nation, at a cable network started by Nexstar, used to be WG in America. They wanted me on the show to talk about President Joe Biden's comments and say the union call dealing with fund the police. Sure, no problem. So we had a pre-show interview. It's called a pre-interview around 2 p.m. Eastern. The show, they said, hey, your hit time is going to be 9:25 a.m. Eastern. Okay, it's no problem. So again, I was told that the segment was supposed to be about this whole issue, the issue of defund the police and Biden's comments about fund the police. That's what I was told. So they sent a remote truck to my home, and in fact, if y'all go to my Instagram page, you'll actually see that particular video where I did the show. So fine, no sweat. That's what we did. So then, right before we go live, like right before, they said something to the effect of, "We're going to refer to you as being an ardent supporter of defund the police." I said, well, that's not really how you can classify me. I wouldn't call myself an ardent supporter of defund the police. I said, I've interviewed many other people in the movement. I can speak to their position. I can speak to why people have that particular point. And they were like, so, y'all, we were like seconds away from going live. Now, mind you, 7 hours had gone by. 7 hours had gone by. And nothing had been said to me about this. And so, okay. And I said, well, look, y'all gonna call me whatever y'all want. That's fine. We're doing the segment. So we go to the segment, and this is how it opens.
Look, you've heard me say it on the show time and again. Bad cops should and need to be held accountable. If you want to advocate for certain reforms, I'm all ears. But defunding the police is a nonsensical idea that can't and shouldn't and thankfully won't happen in this country. Joining me now is Roland Martin. He's the host of the talk show Roland Martin Unfiltered. He's covered the movement extensively. Roland and I have grown up in this business together. Roland, it is good to see you. So, Roland, what happened? I've seen that you have been tweeting out all cops should be fired, all cops should be prosecuted for murder. What's happening with you?
Freeze. Freeze. So I'm sitting there, come to me. So I'm sitting there, and I'm going, oh, why are we starting with my tweets? Now, mind y'all, I was sitting there, and there was not a monitor in front of me. So I could not see the tweets. And so I'm sort of like, what the hell? So, look, y'all, this ain't my first rodeo, okay? I'm a pro at this. I know how to segue, how to stick and move. And so I went right into the conversation.
Okay, we'll pick this up on the other side of the break. It's to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by. All right, back from break in 4 minutes. Stand by. Back from break in 4 minutes. Back from break in 2 minutes. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. Okay, so I want to go back to this clip here. This is from Roland Martin Unfiltered, Friday, March 4th, 2022. And I was a panelist. I'm a panelist each Friday on Roland Martin Unfiltered. He was talking about the segment when he was on Dan Abrams' show on News Nation. Nobody watches Dan Abrams' show on News Nation. Let's go back to this clip, Jalen.
First of all, the segment was almost 10 minutes. I'm not playing the whole damn segment, not giving them that much time. But I did circle back to the tweets because it needs to be addressed. Press play. What's happening with me, what's happening with the folks who are out there committing heinous acts.
And again, without getting anecdotal about case by case, because I agree, if cops engage in misconduct, they should be held accountable. What I'm concerned about is a guy with a reputation like yourself, longtime journalist, you've been in this business a long time, you've got a big name, you've got a big following, and you're out there saying all cops should be prosecuted. And I think that's dangerous.
No, hold up. You forgot something. All cops doing what should be prosecuted? Praise. So y'all saw what happened there. Okay? He comes back and he's saying, oh, I'm saying all of these wild, crazy things. Buttering me up. Oh, you're a journalist, well-respected, loud voice, whatever. So I'm sitting here going, really? Like, y'all got to understand. I've tweeted, oh, my God, I can't tell you how many tweets I've sent out. But I don't say just crazy stuff, just anything, just without context. Watch what happens next.
Let's read. Should we pull the quote from your Twitter again? All right. Can we put up Roland's tweets again, please? The two that we had in the introduction.
I have no monitor here.
Every cop should be fired.
Free.
Every cop should.
Now, leave it up. So y'all see right there, this was a tweet that was sent on February 22nd, 2022, from my iPhone at 5:05 p.m. You see it right there, okay? You see nothing below that. That's kind of important. Press play.
To be fired was the first one. And then the second one was every cop should be prosecuted for murder.
Response to what? Freeze. Boom. I'm not crazy. I know I'm responding to something. So you hear me say, in response to what? Which means I know there is context to what I was talking about. Press play.
It's not a response. It's your tweet. It was an original tweet. It wasn't a response to somebody else.
Please.
All right.
It wasn't a response to someone else. Right then, I knew he was lying. You can look at my face and watch what I say. Press play. No. What I'm saying is, it's not just like, oh, every cop should be prosecuted. If they are a police officer, I've been very clear with this. When you have cops who purposely turn off body cameras, who turn off dash cams, gotta go. If you have cops who lie on police reports and we know after the fact that what they said was wrong, gotta go.
But again,
all right, pause it right there, Jalen.
I don't want to see accountability for.
Pause right there. Let's go to the second clip from Roland Martin Unfiltered. It should say Michael Imhotep. Let's go to that second clip because he comes to me. I'm on the panel. Let's go to that second clip.
Right. Dan Abrams he's trying to get clicks and he's trying to get ratings. I didn't even know he had a show on News Nation. You know, I know him from ABC, being the chief legal analyst from ABC. I didn't even know he had a show on News Nation. I watched.
First of all, a lot of folks ain't never heard of News Nation.
Right. Exactly. So I watched the video you posted on your Instagram page last night when I got finished doing the African History Network show, and then I watched the entire 9-minute segment on your YouTube channel. And the other thing is really important here, Roland. If you look at one of the chyrons during that segment, it says anti-police crowd not happy over calls to fund the police. Okay, this is right underneath you speaking. All right, you're not anti-police. No. See, what they do is they create this narrative to draw in viewers, to make this go viral, to try to increase their rating.
Now you do know who was one of the people who was hired as a consultant with News Nation when they first started.
Was it you?
Bill Shine, the former number 2 at Fox News. But go right.
Yeah, Bill Shine. Yeah. But see, that's what they do at Fox News. They do stuff like that at Fox News to throw red meat to their base. It's very disingenuous. So with Dan Abrams, somebody as intelligent as he is, he should know, number one, if he just saw us, if an intern handed him a sheet of paper with a standalone tweet from you that said all the police should be fired, he should know that there's something more to that. Okay, but no, he wanted to run with that story. But lastly, the other thing is, Roland, I would encourage people, this whole thing with Biden saying fund the police, things like that, I would really encourage people to read the op-ed article that Biden wrote for the USA Today, June 10th, 2020, when he was running for president. And it said, the name of the article is, "We must urgently root out systemic racism from policing to housing to opportunity." And right in here, the second line says, he said, "Federal dollars should not go to departments that violate people's rights or turn to violence as a first resort, but I don't support defunding the police." And then he goes through and breaks this down. He said this during the campaign. He goes through and breaks all this down. But then when you look at when the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, when the talks fell apart in September 2021, September 28th, 2021, the article from theweek.com, you talked about it on your show, I talked about it on my show, largest U.S. police group appears to counter Senator Tim Scott.
Well, but they know he was lying. And he was lying. And this is the game that they play.
Okay,
the game that they play,
right
and again, they want to sit here.
Pause right there. All right. So we were behind. We started the show late on Roland Martin Unfiltered and running behind schedule. This is the point I was getting to. This article here from theweek.com. We talked about this when this came out. After it was announced that the talks have broken down, September 28th, 2021. Everybody pay attention to this. Read all these articles that I'm giving you. Largest U.S. police group appears to counter Senator Tim Scott's argument that Democrats sought to defund police in reform negotiations. Okay. Senator Tim Scott, Republican of South Carolina, and Senator Cory Booker, Democrat, New Jersey, and Karen Bass, Democrat, California, fell apart. The talks fell apart primarily because Democrats sought to defund the police. This is what Tim Scott said, by making departments ineligible for funding if they fail to meet certain criteria. This is holding police departments accountable. But a pair of prominent police organizations, the International Association of Chiefs of Police and the Fraternal Order of Police, the FOP, appeared to push back against Senator Tim Scott's arguments because Tim Scott lied, appeared to push back against Senator Tim Scott's arguments. And on Tuesday, though the senator was not mentioned by name, they said in the joint statement, they said, despite some media reports, at no point did any legislative draft propose defunding the police. They're explaining that the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act does not defund the police. It actually specifically provided additional funding to assist law enforcement agencies in training, agency accreditation, and data collection initiatives. The George Floyd Justice and Policing Act did not defund the police. It actually funds the police, but it does it in a more responsible way, which is what Biden was talking about in the State of the Union address. Those watching on Facebook and YouTube, Facebook fan page, The African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, keep watching. We're going to keep going for a few more minutes to break this down. We'll talk about this some more on our Monday show, okay? Remember, right now it's correct. Wrong behavior is not over till we win. Wakanda forever. And we'll talk to you tomorrow. Peace. All right. Okay, let's keep going. This deals with fighting against police brutality, John Hill. Read these articles before you comment. I'm listening to what I can tell you haven't read this. You're repeating nonsense. Okay, Now this is from the International Association of Police Chiefs and the Fraternal Order of Police. We talked about this here on this show when all this came out. So this is not new for people who actually watch this show daily and actually like follow this information and actually read. We talked about this when this came out September 28th, 2021. Once again, the name of this article: largest U.S. police group appears to counter Senator Tim Scott's argument that Democrats sought to defund police in reform negotiations because Senator Tim Scott lied. This is what happened. Senator Tim Scott lied, and the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act was adding more funding to police departments, but doing it responsibly. And then when you read these articles, it goes through and breaks down what it was doing. Despite this joint statement is from the International Association of Chiefs of Police and the Fraternal Order of Police. They appeared to push back on Senator Tim Scott's argument in a statement, though Senator Tim Scott was not mentioned by name. Despite some media reports, at no point did any legislative draft propose defunding the police. They're talking about regarding the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. The problem is a lot of people running their mouths and commenting on social media, like some of the people commenting on the story right now, haven't read what's in the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, haven't read exactly what it does. They're getting information from memes. They have no clue what they're talking about. Quote, in fact, the legislation referring to the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act specifically provided additional funding to assist law enforcement agencies in training, agency accreditation, and data collection initiatives, end quote. The article from The Week goes on to say those provisions would have helped strengthen law enforcement, improve community policing, quote, without compromising management and officers' rights, authorities, and legal protections. The statement went on to say from the International Association of Chiefs of Police and the Fraternal Order of Police. They were in support of the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. It added more funding to police departments, but it did it in a responsible way, and it would provide more accountability. The problem is a lot of people running their mouths don't read. This article came out September 28th, 2021. Okay, so, and they have the full statement here from the International Association of Police Chiefs and the Fraternal Order of Police, the FOP. Takes you to the Twitter page. It takes you, you can read the full statement there. If you go back, okay, so it goes on to say the statement goes on to say our organizations remain steadfast in working with all interested parties who are willing to take a fact-based approach to enact effective and lasting change to avoid a patchwork of state laws that do not provide uniform standards and guidance to the policing profession. Because the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act was going to be federal law that provides standards all across the U.S. The majority of control over policing is not at the federal level, it's at the state level because of the 10th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution and states' rights. This is why people need to read the U.S. Constitution also. Okay, so read the rest of this article here. That's the most important part there. This is from September 28th, 2021. Now, none of the woke activists complaining talked about this because I saw statements from them, things like none of them talked about this. Okay, so we have this one, and then just a second here. I gotta find. All right, let's close that out. So if we look at the article from thehill.com, we talked about this article September 28th, 2021. We talked about this article also when it came out as well. This piece from thehill.com, and I gotta see where did they set this in a new hold on, they put this in a new tab. This one here from thehill.com is called Police Organizations Say Failed Reform Proposal Would Have Strengthened Departments, Not Defunded Them. They're talking about the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. Let's look at this one here. I've got a bunch of information. I have polls. We may talk about this some more Monday. I have poll after poll after poll that shows the majority of African Americans don't want to defund the police. They want safe policing, and they want rogue officers, those that unjustly kill African Americans, things like this. They want them prosecuted, but they don't want to defund the police. This is from thehill.com, September 28th, 2021. Police organizations say failed reform proposal, referring to the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, would have strengthened departments, not defunded them, because Tim Scott lied. Two police associations released a statement expressing disappointment over police reform negotiations ending on Capitol Hill last week after a bipartisan group of lawmakers said it had reached an impasse. The International Association of Chiefs of Police and the Fraternal Order of Police, the FOP, are disappointed that the Senate, the U.S. Senate negotiators, could not reach an agreement on police reform legislation. And we thank all those members of Congress who participated, who partnered with us in the effort. The joint statement from the International Association of Police Chiefs and the Fraternal Order of Police said, quote, despite media reports, at no point did any legislative draft propose defunding the police. It is our joint belief that the provisions under discussion would have strengthened the law enforcement profession and helped improve the state of community police engagement without compromising management and officers' rights, authorities, and legal protections. They're still talking about the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. Problem is people haven't read what's in it. On Sunday, Senator Tim Scott, who is probably related to Isaiah T. Montgomery, who was the only African-American in the Mississippi State Legislature in 1890 during the Mississippi State Convention, where they voted to impose poll taxes and literacy tests and write that into the state constitution to suppress the African-American vote. And Isaiah T. Montgomery, being a former slave, voted to suppress the African-American vote. And he voted for the poll taxes and literacy tests. He was the founder of Bayou, Mississippi. He was a wealthy landowner, former slave. He was brain damaged, but at least his excuse for being brain damaged is that he's a former slave. Now, what's Senator Tim Scott's excuse for being brain damaged? Senator Tim Scott claimed that the bill advocated, quote unquote, defunding the police. That's not what the Fraternal Order of Police and the International Association of Police Chiefs said. That's not what Senator Cory Booker said. Senator Tim Scott went on Face the Nation and he said, quote, we said simply this: I'm not going to participate in reducing funding for the police after we saw major city after major city defund the police. Tim Scott said on CBS's Face the Nation. Meanwhile, Senator Cory Booker said the reform, referring to the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, would have allocated, quote, millions of dollars more, end quote, to police. Senator Cory Booker helped write the bill. Meanwhile, Senator Cory Booker, Democrat of New Jersey, said the reform, referring to the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, would have allocated, quote, millions of dollars more, end quote, to police. Now, does that sound like the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act is defunding the police, or does it sound like it's funding the police? Well, that's what Biden said in his State of the Union address. And he talked about accountability, holding police officers accountable, all that stuff. Just like he did in his op-ed article, June 10th, 2020, for USA Today that people haven't read. And just like they explained here, when the talks broke down on the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act in September 2021. Quote, Cory Booker went on to say on CNN's State of the State Union, Cory Booker went on to say on CNN's State of the Union, quote, we want to help officers with mental health issues. We want to collect more data, so we should give more resources. That's what Biden was talking about in his State of the Union address. He just spent a few seconds talking about it, but that's what he was talking about. That's what the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act does. The House of Representatives has twice passed a sweeping bill named after George Floyd. And the bill bans chokeholds, carotid artery holds, and no-knock warrants at the federal level, overhauls qualified immunity, and creates a national police misconduct registry. But one of the most important things that the bill does is it lowers the federal standard that is required to federally criminally prosecute police officers it lowers it from willful intent, which goes to state of mind, it lowers it down to negligence. Now, if you go to justice.judiciary.gov, let me try to pull this up here. Justice.judiciary.gov, they give a breakdown of what's in the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. Let me try to pull this up here. Okay, that is where's I want the one from Justice. Oh, judiciary.house.gov. That's what I want right here. Judiciary.house.gov. Now, we talked about this here on this show before because we actually deal with real substance. We provide you with the evidence. Proper documentation ends all conversation. So if you've watched this show for any length of time, you remember me going through this in 2021, breaking this down. Fact sheet, George Floyd Justice and Policing Act of 2021, judiciary.house.gov was house.gov official website of the House of Representatives. And we went through and broke this down. Let me flip over to this here. This fact sheet on what's in the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act and what it does. The George Floyd Justice and Policing Act is the first ever bold, comprehensive approach to hold police accountable. And it spends millions more. It gives millions more dollars to police department, but it deals with accountability. It does it in a responsible way. It doesn't defund the police, it funds the police. People don't read. It ends racial profiling. It changes the culture of law enforcement, empowers our communities, and builds trust between law enforcement and our communities by addressing systemic racism and bias to help save lives. The Justice and Policing Act would, 1, establish a national standard for the operation of police departments. 2, mandate data collection on police encounters. 3, it will reprogram existing funds to invest in transformative community-based policing programs. And 4, it would streamline federal law to prosecute excessive force and establish independent prosecutors for police investigations. And they're talking about criminal prosecution. So then they go through and break down the categories. It'll work to end racial and religious profiling, prohibits state and prohibits federal, state, local law enforcement from racial, religious, and discriminatory profiling, mandates training on racial, religious, and discriminatory profiling for all law enforcement, requires law enforcement to collect data on all investigatory activities, saves lives by banning chokeholds and no-knock warrants, limits military equipment on American streets and requires body cameras. Not just body cameras, you also have to pay for the storage devices to store the terabytes of information, which is very expensive. The George Floyd Justice and Policing Act did not defund the police, it funded the police. And people that know about it know this. This is what Senator Cory Booker said. He helped write the bill. Requires federal uniform officers to wear body cameras and requires state and local law enforcement to use existing federal funds to ensure the use of body cameras. Requires marked federal police vehicles to have dashboard cameras. Hold police accountable in court. Hold police accountable in court. It would make it easier to prosecute offending officers. Okay, let me blow this up for the people with bad eyes. It would make it easier to prosecute offending officers by amending the federal criminal statute to prosecute police misconduct. They're talking about federal prosecution, which is, they're talking about criminal prosecution, putting them in prison. The mens rea requirement in 18 U.S.C. section 242 will be amended from willfulness, willful intent, which goes to state of mind, to recklessness, to a recklessness standard, which is a lower standard that federal prosecutors will have to meet to get a criminal conviction against police officers. Because willful intent means, the way it stands now, it means that you have to prove that. So it deals with depriving someone of their civil rights. Okay. The federal prosecution now deals with depriving someone of the civil rights. You have to prove that the officer willfully intended to deprive someone of their civil rights, which goes to state of mind. It's hard to prove. That's a high standard to meet. If you can lower the standard that has to be met for federal prosecution from willfulness down to recklessness, it makes it easier to prosecute officers at the federal level, which makes it easier to get convictions. That's a bigger deterrent than qualified immunity. Qualified immunity is a civil lawsuit. That's not a criminal lawsuit. They're not going to prison over that. That's suing them. And the other thing is that people don't talk about, one, the police unions are going to help them raise money if they lose in court. So they have to pay $10 million to a family. Police unions are going to help them raise money, one. Two, insurance companies are going to start selling police misconduct liability insurance. Just like doctors have to carry liability insurance, malpractice insurance, things like this. Insurance companies, if qualified immunity is repealed, and I'm not saying it shouldn't be, I'm saying it's a civil lawsuit. People ain't going to prison over that. A bigger deterrent is locking criminal cops up, putting them in prison. That's a bigger deterrent. The George Floyd Justice and the Policing Act would do both. Now, in May of 2021, there was rumbling between the talks between Senator Cory Booker, Karen Bass, and Senator Tim Scott that the sticking point was qualified immunity. Okay. Now, Representative James Clyburn of South Carolina said he did an interview with the Washington Post, May 2021. We talked about it here on this show. He said, if qualified immunity is the sticking point, if you can't get around qualified immunity, he said, take qualified immunity out of the negotiations, take it out of the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, and get the rest of the bill passed. He said it doesn't make sense to keep going round and round and you can't get the bill passed. He said, take that bill out. He said, take qualified immunity off the table, take it out the bill, get the rest of the bill passed, and come back and get qualified immunity later. I said he's absolutely correct. What happened? They didn't do that. They kept going month after month, dealing with Senator Tim Scott, who was disingenuous. They were Senator Cory Booker and Representative Karen Bass were negotiating in good faith. Senator Tim Scott, Black Republican from South Carolina, was not negotiating in good faith. Then he went out and lied about why the whole deal fell apart in September 2021. So when this article came out from Washington Post, May 2021, we talked about it right here on this show because we actually do a real substance. And we go through, break this stuff down. Representative Clyburn says qualified immunity doesn't have to be part of policing reform. May 9th, 2021. He was correct. He didn't say it wasn't important. What he was saying was, okay, this is a comprehensive bill. Problem is people haven't read what's in the bill. So if you go through and look what's in the bill, like I said before, the most important part of the bill is not qualified immunity. That's just what's talked about a lot in the media. So that's what people gravitate to because they haven't read what's in the bill. Most important part of this bill is dealing with 18 USC section 242 and lowering the federal standard to be able to criminally prosecute police officers from willfulness down to recklessness. That's the most important part of this bill. So Clyburn is saying, you look at the rest of the stuff in here, investigate police misconduct, empower our communities to reimagine public safety in an equitable and just way. This is a powerful bill. Clyburn was saying, wait a second. You don't just sit there month after month dealing with this idiot. Okay, if he's saying, all right, qualified immunity is the sticking point, take qualified immunity out. Now let's get the rest of the bill passed. Because you need 10 Republicans in the Senate to vote for the bill. The bill had already passed the House of Representatives. The George Floyd Justice and Policing Act passed the House of Representatives March 3rd, 2021 by a vote of 219 to 211. All the Republicans voted against the bill. Actually, sorry, it was 220 to 212. It passed 220 to 212. The one Republican who accidentally voted for the bill put out a tweet and said he accidentally voted for the bill and he was going to change his vote. No Republicans in the House supported the bill. You need 10 Republicans in the Senate to support the bill because the bill doesn't qualify for the budget reconciliation process, which just requires 51 votes, a simple majority. You need 60 votes in the Senate. So you need 10 Republicans to vote for the bill. You can hallucinate whatever reality you want to. At the end of the day, you need 10 Republicans to vote for the bill. Clyburn knew this. So Clyburn said, House Majority Whip James Clyburn suggested Sunday that he would be willing to support policing reform legislation, even if it did not end qualified immunity, the legal doctrine that shields individual officers from lawsuits. Those are civil lawsuits. That ain't criminal. That's not criminal prosecution. It's a civil lawsuit. He said, Clyburn said, I will never sacrifice good on the altar of the perfect. I just won't do it. You don't give up a good bill because you can't get a perfect bill and walk away with nothing. That's stupid. You don't sacrifice the good for the perfect. We can't get a perfect bill, so we're going to walk away with nothing. He said this on CNN State of the Union. He said, quote, I know what the perfect bill would be. We have proposed that. I want to see good legislation. And I know that. And I know that sometimes you have to compromise. If we don't get qualified immunity now, then we will come back and get it and try to get it later. If we don't get qualified immunity now, then we will come back and try to get it later. But I don't want to see us throw out a good bill because we can't get a perfect bill. So what happened? All the woke ass activists jumped on Clyburn, said he didn't know what he was talking about, blah, blah, blah. And what happened? The talks fell apart months later. They kept dealing with this idiot, Senator Tim Scott. The talks fell apart in September. And then what happened? They walked away with nothing. And I said here on this show in May, we went through this article from the Washington Post. When this came out, right here on this show, I said Representative James Clyburn is absolutely correct. You don't sacrifice the good for the perfect and walk away with nothing. That's stupid. Clyburn's remarks were a departure from members of his own party who, along with civil rights activists, have pushed for the doctrine of qualified immunity to be eliminated or changed. Qualified immunity has become a sticking point, blah, 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 whatever. And they walked away with nothing. They were trying to woke. Booker and Representative Karen Bass negotiated in good faith. They tried to do the right thing, but they were negotiating with somebody who was disingenuous. Senator Tim Scott. Read the rest of this here. I said this back in May. I said, you don't keep sitting negotiating with this idiot. So what happened was they kept going June, July, August, September. Talks broke down. It came out September 25th. Talks broke down. They're going to walk away with no bill. If you had taken qualified immunity out in May 2021 and said, okay, now let's get the bill passed. And if Tim Scott kept going and running in circles, you would have known he was full of sugar, honey, iced tea. Then you wouldn't have wasted 4 or 5 months still messing with them. You could have gone to plan B. But you lost that time dealing with him, and the time is ticking coming up on the midterm elections. So, for the sake of time here, because it's been a busy day, I taught a 2.5-hour class today. Senator Cory Booker said the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act spends millions of dollars more on policing. That don't sound like defund the police to me. That sounds like funding the police. He knows more about this bill than most people. He helped write it. We talked about this article on this show when this came out, September 28th, 2021, from thehill.com. Washington Post, September 28th, 2021. Let's look at this article here from the Washington Post. Police groups say, quote, defunding the police, quote, was not proposed in reform talks, counter the GOP senator's claim. This one is, let's pull this one up here. This is from Washington Post. September 28th, 2021. Let's look at this one here quickly. Now, I've heard activists after activists and all this stuff. Some of them, you know, I like, many of them mean well, have good hearts and things like this. I haven't heard any of them say this and break this stuff down like this. I've seen them on MSNBC, the Black News Channel. I heard Charles Blow on the Black News Channel, all this stuff. None of them are explaining this stuff. Police groups say defunding the police was not proposed in reform talks, counter the GOP senator's claim. Senator Tim Scott. September 28th, 2021. Two of the country's largest groups representing police officers said Tuesday that defunding the police was not proposed in the policing reform negotiations, known as the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, that fell apart in Congress last week in an apparent pushback against the lead Republican negotiator's claim. Senator Tim Scott. Just say his name. Just Senator Tim Scott. So they go through International Association of Police Chiefs and Fraternal Order of Police, FOP, they go through with the statements we already went through. Despite some media reports, at no point did any legislative draft propose defunding the police. The group said in a joint statement, in fact, the legislation specifically provided additional funding to assist law enforcement agencies in training, agency accreditation, and data collection initiatives. It is our joint belief that the provisions under discussion would have strengthened the law enforcement profession and help improve the state of community police engagement without compromising management and officers' rights, authorities, and legal protections. So they talk about Senator Cory Bass and Senator Cory Booker and Representative Karen Bass. After the talks fell apart with the deal with Senator Tim Scott, Senator Tim Scott blamed Democrats, claiming that their push to defund law enforcement made it impossible to agree to on legislation, because this is going to be one of Republicans' talking points in the 2022 midterm elections. Democrats want to defund the police. Defunding the police has never been a platform of the Democratic Party. Now, you've had some Democrats, some members of the House of Representatives, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Cori Bush in Missouri. You have some Democrats who advocate for defunding the police. But defunding the police has never been part of the Democratic platform, the National Democratic platform. There's never been part of that. Republicans don't care. They're going to lie and say it anyway. They're going to lie and say Democrats are for defunding police. They even tried to say, even during the presidential election in 2020, Trump was saying that Biden was for defunding the police. That's one of the reasons why Biden did that article for USA Today. And was like, no, I'm not. President Biden, Democratic congressional leaders, and Representative Karen Bass and Senator Cory Booker have rejected the idea of slashing police departments' budgets. Senator Tim Scott's office did not immediately respond Tuesday to the statement by the police groups. So in a tweet Monday, Senator Tim Scott urged Democrats to come back to the negotiating table. His office also pointed to a Wall Street Journal editorial arguing that police reform failed because Democrats, quote, sought to nationalize policing standards, dropping new burdens on local departments, but denying the resources to make it work. That's not true. The Fraternal Order of Police and the International Association of Police Chiefs applauded the effort and said it didn't defund the police. It added more funding. Quote, the biggest fight was over funding, the editorial states. Mr. Booker says Democrats don't support defunding police, which progressive mayors and activists demanded after nationwide protests in 2020, yet their proposal to restrict existing federal funds would risk a reduction in police resources. It made funds contingent upon meeting certain benchmarks. It made funding contingent upon meeting certain benchmarks. But overall, it added millions more dollars in funding to police departments. It did it responsibly. So read this one as well, Washington Post. I have a whole lot more information here. I just don't have the time to get through it because we did a 2-hour show. It's a 2-hour show. We're already over. So look at this one here from NBC News. How Democrats went from defund the police to refund the police. Even though defund the police was never part of the official Democratic platform, you had some Democrats who supported defunding the police. However they want to interpret defunding the police to be. Let's look at this right here. I'm still waiting on people to break this down. I'm watching people on MSNBC and Black News Channel, all this stuff, get paid to do this, and none of them are explaining this. Have you seen anybody break this stuff down like this? I don't get paid to do none of this stuff. Have you seen anybody break this down like this and provide evidence? How Democrats went from defund to refund the police. As crime rates rise ahead of the midterms, 2022 midterm elections, Black mayors of the nation's largest cities are leading the call to crack down on lawlessness. And part of the shift also had to do with Eric Adams becoming elected mayor of New York, which is the largest city in the country. New York has a population like 8 million people. They have the largest police force in the country also. He's a former police officer. A young Democratic member of Congress declared defund the police movement dead on Thursday, and Black Democratic mayors from San Francisco to New York, Chicago to Washington, D.C. are moving to increase police budgets and end the reign of criminals. As violent crime surges ahead of the November 2022 midterm elections, President Joe Biden and the Democratic Party are toughening their talk on crime and refunding the police only 2 years after some progressive activists took up the call to defund the police. Now, Mayor Michael Nutter, the former mayor of Philadelphia, said in an interview, quote, "People are still against crime and people want to be safe." People are still against crime and people want to be safe. Now, what I've talked about here on the show before, and I've said this on Roland Martin Unfiltered as well, we have to focus on the 4 R's: reduce responsibilities and reallocate resources. Reduce responsibilities and reallocate resources. The reason why is because when you shrink the responsibilities that police are responsible for, okay? Somebody with a gun don't have to show up to everything. If you have somebody, you have a homeless person laying on a park bench, somebody with a gun don't have to show up to that. Somebody, a mental health professional may need to show up for that. So when you reduce the responsibilities of police departments, especially in major cities, now some things may vary. There are 18,500 police departments across the country. The majority of control over policing is not at the federal level, it's at the state level because of the 10th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. So when you reduce the responsibility of police departments, generally, that frees up some type of funding that can be redirected into other areas that deals with prevention, deals with mental health, deals with education, job training, things like this. But it's not just going in snatching funding from police departments. Because just snatching funding from police departments, generally speaking, there may be exceptions if a police department has excesses of millions and millions of dollars. But generally speaking, just going in and snatching dollars from police departments' budgets, but still leaving them with the same amount of responsibilities, the same amount of backlog of cases. And then you have some police departments that are understaffed because you have police officers who've retired, who've left the profession, things like this. After the 2020 social justice protests and things like this during the summer of 2020 behind the killing of George Floyd, things like this, you have some police departments that are understaffed and they need to hire more officers. So because you have 18,500 police departments approximately, different sizes, different things like this, it's hard to just go and just take a cookie cutter approach and say everybody has to approach it this way. So the majority of control of policing is not at the federal level, it's at the state level. There's a piece from Cornell University's law school that looks at this. And it deals with what is that? Let me find that. see, do I have that? Contributions donation. That's not it. I thought I bookmarked it. Legal information, 14. That's 14th Amendment. This is dealing with the 10th Amendment, but it deals with, you know what? Okay, that's the Amistad case. That's not what I want. Let me see if we can find this. It deals with the majority of control over policing is at the state level. That's what it deals with. And let me see. I saw it a couple weeks ago because I was. Okay, this right here, police powers. Yeah, this right here, police powers. Okay, Cornell University Law School. Cornell Law School. Police powers. Police powers are the fundamental ability of a government to enact laws to coerce its citizenry for the public good, although the term eludes exact definition. The term does not directly relate to common connotation of police officers charged with blah, blah, blah. The division of police power in the United States is delineated in the 10th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which states, quote, the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people, end quote. The powers not delegated to the United States by the U.S. Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. That is, in the United States, the federal government does not hold a general police power, but may only act where the Constitution enumerates a power. It is the states then who hold the general police power. The majority of control over policing is not at the federal level, it's at the state and local level, based upon the 10th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which deals with states' rights. This is a central tenet to the system of federalism, which the U.S. Constitution embodies. Read the rest of this. So at the federal level, they can only go so far. All right, now, let's just look at, just for the sake of time, because I got a lot more information here, and I have like 4 or 5 polls, but we'll just look at one. Let's not look at the Gallup poll from August 5th, 2020. Let's look at let's look at USA Today Ipsos. Well, that's March 7th, 2021. Only 1 in 5 support defund the police movement. Let's look at let's see here. All right, let's look at the one more recent. Let's look at this one here from Washington Post. July 2nd, 2021. Concern over crime is growing, but Americans don't just want more police. Also, slate.com has a good article dealing with a poll as well. But specifically, this talks about how the majority of African Americans don't want to defund the police either. And poll after poll after poll shows this. Okay. Let me pull this up here. This is from Washington Post. I have this up here in Firefox. Pull this up here in Google Chrome. Concern over crime is growing. Okay, let's pull it up here. Let's do it like this. Concern crime is growing, but Americans don't just want more police. This is from the Washington Post, July 2nd, 2021. This is a Washington Post ABC poll, July 2nd, 2021. Concern over crime is growing, but Americans don't just want more police. Cleve R. Woodson Jr. and Scott Clement. Concern over crime has reached the highest point in 4 years amid a spike in killings in big cities and an uptick in violent crime, according to a Washington Post ABC poll released Friday. And the percentage of Americans who say crime in the United States is extremely serious has reached its highest point in 2 decades. The poll also finds a sizable majority believe racial discrimination still exists in the country and say they hope that communities can find solutions to crime beyond putting more police officers on America's streets, such as providing economic opportunities to people in low-income communities. The poll reflects a larger debate raging in city council chambers, activist circles, and even the White House about whether the nation can mitigate a troubling recent spike in violent crime and still make progress on the police reforms that gained momentum after George Floyd was murdered by a Minneapolis police officer. A 59% majority of Americans believe crime is an extremely or very serious problem in the U.S., according to the Washington Post ABC poll, an increase from 51% in the Gallup poll last fall 2020, and the highest level since 2017. Okay. Now, then they go through and they break this down by race. And let me see, where is that? If we go through and look at this quickly here. 55% majority of Americans who say increasing funding for police departments would reduce violent crime, with views diverging sharply by party and race. Historically rise at where's that? More than 3/4 of Americans say among the perceived, where's that? Black people Say country is making progress. Okay, that's dealing with, hold on, where is that one? Okay, I think it was the USA Today Ipsos poll, but you can look at this one also here from Washington Post. Administration. Reduce crime. Breakdown. Okay, that is it. 76. Among this, more 710 say violent crime will be reduced by stricter gun laws, etc. Okay, the one I was looking for was the Ipsos poll. USA Today Ipsos, March 7th, 2021. This was right after the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act passed the U.S. House of Representatives, because it passed March 3rd, 2021. And this is, I think this is it right here. USA Today Ipsos poll. Support to redistribute. So fewer than 1 in 5 support defund the police movement. USA Today Ipsos poll finds. It's March 7th, 2021. This was right after the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act passed the House of Representatives. So if you go through and look at this here, support to redistribute police department funding has decreased among Americans since August of 2020, after a summer of protests had erupted across the country against racial injustice and police brutality, a recent Ipsos USA Today poll found. The call to redistribute police budgets stemmed from Black Lives Matter activists and protesters who called to defund the police after the deaths of George Floyd, Brown, and Taylor, etc. While some believe defunding the police is a call to get rid of law enforcement completely, and many activists are not trying to do that, many activists behind the slogan intended to make a more nuanced argument for police budgets to be steered toward community social programs, so officers were less often required to take on roles better suited to social workers. Only 18% of respondents supported the move known as defund the police, and 58% said they opposed it, though white Americans 67% and Republicans 84% were more likely to oppose the movement. Only 28% of African Americans and 34% of Democrats were in favor of defunding the police. You can look at the Gallup poll from August of 2020. Where's the Gallup poll? The Gallup poll was the first one that I saw on this. This one right here. Black Americans want police to retain local presence, but it's the type of policing. They still want to hold rogue officers accountable. They still want criminal officers locked up, things like that. It's how the funds are allocated. Let me pull this one up here, right here from Gallup. So this came out August 5th, 2020. This is during the summer when you had the social justice protests. I talked about it here on this show when I saw this article, when this poll came out. Black Americans want police to retain local presence. It's the type of presence. It's the quality of policing, not bad policing. We're against police brutality. We're against bad policing. Black Americans are a bit more likely than most other groups to see police locally. Still 81% want police to spend same amount of or more time in their area. So they go through and break this down. I don't have time to go through the whole breakdown. You can read this yourself. When asked whether they want the police to spend more time, the same amount of time, or less time than they currently do in their area, most African Americans, 61% polled, want the police presence to remain the same. This is similar to 67% of all U.S. adults preferring the status quo, including 71% of Americans. Meanwhile, nearly equal proportions of Black Americans say they would like the police to spend more time in their areas. 20% said this, as they like to see them spend less time in their areas. But it's the quality of policing that they want to see. So you can read the rest of this also. But they want accountability for police officers. They want rogue officers, people unjustly kill people, things like this, like Derek Chauvin, prosecuted, but also want to try to keep those people off the police force in the first place. Okay, so read this from Gallup, August 5th, 2020, because it's like 7 pages. I printed this out of 7 pages. I don't have time to get through all of it. It's 7 pages. Okay, so check that out as well. Look at the fact sheet that we went through about what's in the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, because it does fund the police. It actually funds the police, but it does it in a responsible way, and it does it in a way to provide more accountability, holding police officers accountable. This is at judiciary.house.gov. The George Floyd Justice and Policing Act fact sheet, and it goes through, breaks down all this stuff that's in the bill. And how it doesn't defund the police, it funds the police. All right. So hopefully you've learned a lot here, because I saw a whole bunch of nonsense just floating around on social media. Nobody broke this stuff down and explained it like this. If you saw somebody do it like this, let me know who they were when they do it. When they do it, send me a video. Okay. So if you like this type of information also, so give us a thumbs up, give us a heart on this video, give us a like. We do a real substance here. Provide the evidence for you as well. Provide you with the sources. You can go research this yourself. Proper documentation ends all conversation. If you like this type of information also, you can support the African History Network, $ the AHN show through Cash App. $ the AHN show through Cash App, also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show, paypal.me/the AHN show. This helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, pay the bills, pay some of the bills, buy printer cartridges, paper. You can visit our website also, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We have the information there. also at our website, and we have the you can register for the online classes that I on the weekends, also on Saturdays and Sundays. But we have the information on our website dealing with Cash App and PayPal. Let me pull this up right here. And it has the link to our Cash App account there also. So when you go, if you go to our Cash App account, it is $ the AHN show through Cash App. $ the AHN show, SHOW. When you go to it, it says Michael, shows my picture there. These other ones are fake African History Network Cash App accounts. That's not us. We have the link here on our website and have the donate button also through PayPal. We're here Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. to midnight Eastern Standard Times, and Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the African History Network show. Broadcast on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network. So follow us there. Turn on live notifications so you know when we go live. Also on our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP. Turn on live notifications there so you know when we go live. Download the iHeartRadio app. You can listen to 9:10 a.m. Superstation WFDF here in Detroit live through the iHeartRadio app. You can listen to my show live through the iHeartRadio app, but also search for the African History Network show because I have my own channel there on iHeartRadio, and we have our shows audio podcasted there. So you have about, I think, maybe 300 podcasts of our shows. You can read articles I've written here. Click there. I haven't written articles in some time. You can advertise with the African History Network. Current promotion, buy 1 month, get 2 months free for limited time only. But we have the information here dealing with the online courses that I teach as well. Saturdays, it is from the ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. We do that 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And Sundays, it is from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement of Black Power, 1865 to 1968. So the class is on sale right now. Limited time only, $60, regularly $130. You have the bundle pack. You register for both classes for $100. If you've taken any of my online classes in the past, and I've been teaching them since 2017, if you've taken any of my online classes in the past, email me at AHNshow@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You'll get 50% off on the classes, okay? And I'm going to post a link here on the thread of the broadcast. So as soon as you register, we have archived content. We do the sessions live. All the classes are archived and recorded. You can go back and watch them anytime. So as soon as you register, you can watch the classes that we did this weekend, okay? You can watch that. So we'll post a link here. All right, I got your email, Kenya. Also, I got to get on that on Monday. Jump on that on Monday. Okay, look, we're way over time. We have to get out of here. We'll be back Monday. Remember, right now it's correct. Wrong behavior is not over till we win. Wakanda forever, and we'll talk to you next time. Peace.